Tape Deck Media.
See you at the party, Richter!
And welcome back to See You at the Potty, Richter. I am one of your hosts, Joseph Beck Castro, and joining me as always is Aaron Frescus.
Hello.
And Christopher Chapman.
What is crack-a-lacking, gentlemen?
A lot or not a lot? I'm not sure how to respond. Today we're going to be continuing our coverage of Arnold's 2003 sci-fi action sequel vehicle, Terminator 3. We're going to get into some production notes, little talk about the directors and their other work, and maybe even a little talk about the original Terminator 3 screenplay, or at least a Terminator 3 screenplay. But to get into all that, we're going to hand it over to Aaron. So, Aaron, take it away.
All right. So, first of all, I don't have all that yet. But okay. I had to completely rewrite the rights part because I tried to explain it to Erica last night and she could not follow it.
Got it.
So, I simplified it and I spent most of the day doing that. Anyway, so just a heads up that we're about to go on a little bit of a journey with this. I believe I briefly mentioned during the Genesis episode that the Terminator franchise rights are kind of all over the place. But I didn't realize before Nigel started doing research how much the quote-unquote fight over the franchise rights impacted both T3 and the Terminator franchise in general. It's like that old Beastie Boys song goes, you gotta fight for your right to franchise. Although I guess it was more of a bidding war than a fight, but anyway.
Oh, I thought you were going with, listen all of y'all, it's Terminator 3, but that maybe the name of that song's a different Arnold movie. I don't know. Perhaps.
What's the name of that song?
It's Sabotage.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't like the Beastie Boys.
Oh yeah, no, not a fan. But I'm a fan of bad jokes, so that's why that's in there. Anyway, I figured since we're going to be discussing it anyway, we might as well get the entire messy history of the franchise out of the way, so that we won't have to revisit it again when we eventually get around to doing the 3 remaining movies. Mm-hmm. I wanted to mention that before we get going, so you guys aren't like, whoa, why are we talking about the first movie?
Yeah.
And by the way, we're only going to cover basic timeline stuff of the franchise rights for Terminator 1 and 2.
Yes, but not the timeline of the movies in the movie.
Nope.
The timeline of the movies in our world.
Yes, that. Because like researching those would have taken too long. But we'll get around to covering any details we missed about those movies when we do those movies. By the way, feel free to ask any questions that pop in your head. And if I don't have the answer now, I should hopefully have it by the time we record that particular movie.
Okay, I got one. So carrots used to be purple, and now they're like orange. Do you prefer them, would you prefer them purple or orange?
Oh, I can answer that one now. Orange? I don't know, just because I'm used to it.
Interesting. Yeah, orange is better. Closer to dick color.
Yeah, and the purple orange or purple carrot just makes it seem like the carrot died of asphyxiation or something like that.
Autoerotic asphyxiation.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway.
Do you want me to keep these questions that pop in my head pertaining to what we're talking about, or just...
Either way, I'm happy with answering either.
I'd prefer if they stayed mostly about carrots.
Yeah, right. Or autoerotic asphyxiation.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to start things off by going all the way back to the year 1980-something. Possibly 83, but more likely 81 or 82. Mm-hmm. Although I don't know for sure because a lot of the stuff I found concerning the rights was kind of vague and frustratingly contradictory. And then throw in the fact that I'm kind of dumb and it got confusing. Okay, so it seems that sometime in the early 80s, James Cameron sold the rights for the Terminator to producer Gail Ann Hurd, who he'd eventually marry. And boy, oh boy, did he make a killing on that deal, selling them to her for a grand total of $1, or about roughly the same price as like 2 12-ounce cans of Spam. Now, I'm not saying that that's what he spent his newfound riches on, but I haven't read anything else to the contrary yet, so we just got to wait to find out when we do Terminator 1. Or The Terminator. So anyway, why would James Cameron do this? The official story from the man himself is that he sold the rights to her for $1 under the condition that he be allowed to direct the film. It's also possible that he really just wanted a can of Tab Cola, but only had a $5 bill, and the vending machine outside Gale Ann Hurd's office doesn't give change. But that's just like my theory on it. But basically, he was an unknown director when he wrote the original Terminator. He'd only directed one film, which was Piranha 2, The Spawning, which we discussed on the Dark Fate episode. Check it out. And he was adamant about directing his own screenplay. So he sold it to her for $1 to secure the director's job. They were eventually able to get an indie production company called Hemdale Film to agree to finance the movie, which is how Hemdale ends up owning the other half of the franchise. So the 50%. I would, at least I think.
Real quick, where in their relationship were they when he sold her that for $1?
I don't know how well they know each other, but they weren't married yet because they were married from 1985 to 89, I believe, 88 or 89. And this had to be in a leak because Terminator was 84.
Yeah.
This must have been in like 82, I would assume.
Yeah.
81 or 82.
Before Terminator even came out.
Yeah, before the movie came out.
Before you even made it.
Yeah, but so they got a production company called Hemdale to agree to finance the movie. Hemdale gets 50% of the rights. I think because they financed it. Again, what I found was just vague enough with the details that I'm not 100% sure, but that sounds right. Yep. I don't know, because Hemdale definitely financed the film, so I'm assuming getting 50% of the rights was part of whatever deal they made with Gale Ann Hurd.
Mm-hmm.
The Terminator is released in 1984. It was a big success, although James Cameron apparently did have problems with the Hemdale producers during production. We will go into more detail on that when we cover Terminator 1, but apparently their problems with Hemdale were bad enough that, according to a 1991 interview Arnold did with Starlog magazine, both he and James Cameron wanted to do a sequel to Terminator 1, but did not want to make it with those jabronis at Hemdale. So they basically decided to just wait them out, which ended up working because eventually Hemdale began having money problems. And then in 1989, they sold their share of the rights for $10 million to Mario Casar and Andrew Vajna at Coralco Pictures, which I had to look up how to pronounce because I wasn't sure and I heard it pronounced different ways.
Oh, it's not Carolco?
No,
yeah,
I
I've always
guess
said
not.
Carolco.
Same with me. And then I was like looking through YouTube videos. There was one guy that pronounced it Carol Colo. And the comments were funny on that video because they kept pointing it out, and then someone mentioned like the phonetic spelling of it. I thought it was pronounced like that. I'm like, okay, well, that works for me. Whatever it is.
My softball teammate pronounces it cilantro, and he's from Connecticut.
I like saying stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's like his natural. Like, I like saying Jamba Juice.
Yeah, but stuff like that. We're just making an A long on words that it's not.
But that wasn't like intentional of like, oh, I like to do it. That was just like how he said it. He's like, that's how we always said it. That's weird.
Well, it's wrong.
Anyways.
So here's where it starts to get a bit confusing and is what I ended up spending a stupid amount of time trying to figure out. Because from here, there are two different accounts of what happens next. And we're eventually going to do this as a timeline, making it into a timeline, because as I was going through it last night with Erica, it started getting confusing. Mm-hmm. So 1989, Coralco Pictures buys 50% of the rights from Hemdale. The other 50% are still owned by Gale Ann Hurd, who I believe, yes, at this point was now James Cameron's ex-wife. Which good for her, because I feel like James Cameron's probably a pain in the ass to deal with. And that's coming from someone who relates to like a lot of like the pain in the ass perfectionist stuff he does, which is part of the reason why Erica and I don't work on certain things together anymore, especially like detail oriented stuff, projects that I'm working on, because like a few hours into it, I can just like see like the burning hatred in her eyes as we redo the same thing for like the 6th or 7th time. And then I show it to her and there's like not enough of a difference to where it matters, but I'm like, no, it needs to be this way. Anyway, you guys get it.
I can only imagine being married to him and then to have to like be a producer on one of his movies at the same time where he's like actively working against you and being an asshole.
Yeah. Can't see why it didn't work out, but good for her. Anyway, Gale Ann Hurd owned the other 50%, and I would say with T1 being a hit at the box office, it's probably safe to assume that she had one hell of a return on that $1 investment she paid for the rights, which I like to imagine she paid out like in loose change that she had in her purse, which James Cameron just then hung up like somewhere in his house, just like 2 rolls of pennies that he framed and hung up on the office. It's like hung up in the office at his house. Although I feel like he doesn't, because I think that's definitely something that he regrets doing. So he's like,
what, selling the rights?
Well, yeah. He's like, well, I can buy 3 bags of onions with this.
I think it's weird that he regrets. I mean, it's not weird, but like he went on to make so many huge movies and make so much money. Like, it's fine, dude.
Yeah, he's which we'll get to. He regrets it, but he also has the like an attitude toward it. There's nothing I could do about it. So whatever.
There's nothing you can do, and if you hadn't done it, you probably wouldn't have fucking made the movie in the first place.
That's what he also said. Yeah. He said it got me to where I am. So okay, so here's where the point where the timelines diverge a bit, because there are a few different sources that say a few different things about what happened next. So in one version, we have Koralko in 1989. Making some deals happen, which one of the Koralko boys, Mario Kassar, discusses in a 2016 interview he did with Deadline.com, saying the same thing I mentioned before, that they bought half the rights from Hemdale for $10 million, but they couldn't get the ball rolling on Terminator 2 yet, which he explains by saying, quote, "So now I needed to go get the other half. So Galen Hurd's agent asked for $5 million. I said, fuck, but okay. So I'm at $15 million now, but I have the rights. Then there was something else to resolve, and I had to go back for another million or something. So the rights ended up costing 16 or 17 million, unquote."
Jesus.
And is that a lot? Like, I guess back then, that's a lot for rights.
I have to assume so. I have a vague idea what movie budgets are, but I have no idea what you're supposed to pay for, like, rights of a movie. Like, that seems...
If what he's saying is true, he paid more for it then than they did, 10 years later or whatever. Then, anyway. Okay, now correct me if I'm wrong, but from that quote, doesn't it sound like Koralko first bought Hemdale's half of the rights for $10 million, and then followed that up with buying Galen Hurd's half for $5 million?
That seems like what he said, yeah.
Okay, so in this timeline, which we'll call the Koralko timeline, I guess, Koralko bought the full rights for $17 million, and then made Terminator 2, and everyone was happy, which is actually confirmed in a 2002, which, like, this whole thing is confirmed in a 2002 LA Times article titled Rage Against the Machines, T3's Rocky Road, with the article saying, quote, "Koralko Pictures, purveyor of the Rambo series, which had already snatched up Hemdale's portions of the rights for $10 million, paid $7 million to Hurd, now Cameron's ex-wife, for her rights, and then together with Cameron fashioned Terminator 2, Judgment Day." And we'll come back to that eventually, but moving on. So Terminator 2 is released in 1991, makes like a gazillion dollars, and ends up being the highest grossing movie of the year, which again, we'll cover in more detail during the Terminator T2 episode. But there are a few interesting things that happened in the years leading up to Terminator 3 that I wanted to check out. But before we leave T2 behind, I wanted to mention two quotes that I found, one from James Cameron and one from T2 co-writer William Wisher. And they're from separate interviews they gave during Terminator 2 when promoting it, but both were asked about another potential sequel, and their answers are interesting. So we'll start off with William Wisher, who told Fangoria magazine in 1992, quote, "This isn't so much a sequel as it is part 2 of a very fascinating adventure. We finished the story, and as far as I'm concerned, it should stay finished. Everything we had to say about the Terminator has been said. One of the things Jim and I talked a lot about was whether there should be another follow-up. And we made our decision in the way we wrote Terminator 2. There's no back doors in the film. We wrote this movie so that the fat lady sings," end quote. Which,
sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'd argue a little against that if they went with the original or the alternate ending where, it's like the future and John's a senator for some fucking reason. And
wouldn't that make it like even more like closed door? Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they went with I don't know whose decision that was, but they went with the ending they did, which was, left the door a little cracked.
Yeah.
So you can get a crowbar in there and fucking pry that shit open. Not that I've ever done that. Nor should anybody ever do that.
It sounds like it's a fun thing to do, especially if you're drinking. That sounds like a super fun, because I've kept the door open when I was drinking, and man, was it fun.
Yeah. Hey, and anybody out there trying to kick a door open, like for emergency situations only, you have to kick like about where the handle is, because the part, when you turn the handle, that little part that goes in and out, that basically breaks the wood panel of the door or the door frame, and that's how the door opens. So, if someone's like dying, don't like run and fucking drop your shoulder into the door. You're probably gonna not do anything or go through it or whatever. You got to kick like right around the door handle. So,
yep, that's true.
It's a PSA for the day.
Oh, and to clarify, I kicked in a door for it was an emergency situation. There was weed in the room that I wanted to get into, and I had to kick the door open to get it. So,
You gotta get in there somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no way getting around to that.
Anyway. Okay, so that was William Wisher. Next up, we hear from James Cameron, who what he has to say about it. So in a September 1991 article from Starlog magazine, he says, quote, "I have no idea where I would take a third film, although I'm sure I could come up with something if I thought about it for a while. But I'm not really interested in doing that. Terminator 2 brings the story full circle and ends, and I think ending it at this point is a good idea," end quote. So, yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting how they don't even bother to like hem and haw about a potential sequel, because anytime, like with most directors or actors in the interview, when they're asked that question, they give some sort of like non-committal answer, just like, well, you never know, like we'll see what happens, but yeah, sure, maybe.
Yeah. Let's see how many Brinks trucks they back up.
Yeah.
To my driveway, and then, you know.
But those two were like, nah, we're good.
Yeah. I also feel like maybe back then when sequels were slightly less prevalent, that you might just like not care as much.
Yeah, which we'll also get to. This was like Terminator 3 was, I wouldn't say the very beginning, but it was like one of the first like it was when the franchise stuff started getting bigger, like with Lord of the Rings, The Matrix. I think there was one other example that they mentioned. But yeah, stuff like this. So it was
Harry Potter, yeah,
that's it. So anyway, we're going to move into the timeline and try to keep things simple / coherent, because there's a lot of dates on me thrown around. Mm-hmm. And when I was doing this last night, even I started getting confused. Also, most of this is about the rights, but there are like a couple of random ones about movies that Arnold and Jimmy Cams did, that they were attached to, but for whatever reason, they never got made. Okay, so we're going to back up a bit to 1990, when James Cameron starts up his own production company called Lightstorm Entertainment, who end up co-producing both Terminator 2 and True Lies, as well as the Catherine Bigelow directed 1994 film Strange Days, which I've never seen, but they also produced some like 1997 movie about a boat called Titanic, which I think was the one where Kurt Russell plays an eye patch wearing sea captain for hire, who Martin Short hires to captain his family's yacht, resulting in 90 minutes of hilarious hijinks. I'm pretty sure that's it.
Mm-hmm. Wait. Didn't James Cameron marry Catherine Bigelow?
Yeah.
Yes.
Damn, he just fucking marries everybody, huh?
Yeah, he's been married, I think, like 5 or 6 times.
It's like, dude, just fucking date for a while. Like, you don't gotta like rush into the altar.
No, that would give them a chance to know him.
Anyway, okay. So, skipping forward, 1991, Terminator 2 is released, does well. And September 93, a Variety article reports that James Cameron turned in a script for a Spider-Man movie. Mm-hmm. The script also credits John Brancato, who was a future writer for Terminator 3.
Huh.
Yeah, so apparently, do either of you know anything about that movie?
Spider-Man? The James Cameron Spider-Man movie? I remember Cracked covered it a little bit, and so I went and read, I think, most of the script, and so yeah, I know a little bit about it.
How was the script?
The script was weird. It was very I don't know. The script was like not very I don't remember the dialogue or anything. I just remember like it wasn't super comics. He wasn't very concerned with like comic accuracy, which is fine. Yeah. But like it was about,
you didn't push your glasses up and yell him at the comics.
It was about like the villains were Electro and shit. Who was the other villain? I don't remember. There were 2 villains. It was Electro and somebody else. And Electro was a little less blue collar and a little more like a mob boss or something. Huh. And then I do remember the thing that Cracked covered a lot was that the scenes where he like transforms into Spider-Man were very much a metaphor for puberty. There was a lot of white fluid flying around.
I mean, is that just around puberty? Because that still happens around here.
It's supposed to be just around puberty. I don't know.
Anyway,
I believe it's supposed to be R-rated as well.
Oh, really?
Right? Maybe.
Yeah, I watched some video on it a couple weeks ago.
The version I read was not very R-rated, but I also didn't get to the end, so I don't know.
Yeah, you also didn't get to see like Spider-Man turning into Spider-Man, which he just jerks himself off until he turns into Spider-Man. I don't know. That's basically what you made it sound like. And then he masturbated to a picture of a spider, and he gained its powers.
No, it's something like it's like a very clear allegory for like having a wet dream, but instead he wakes up and his bed is covered in like spider web instead.
I mean, didn't they kind of do that with the Sam Raimi one? No,
not really.
Where he can't control it when it comes out of him.
Yeah, kind of, but that was like in the middle of the lunchroom. I don't know. I guess
that'll happen.
Well,
that
all right.
will happen.
Never happened to me, but yeah.
Hey, man, good for you.
But
anyway, okay, so that article also mentions that a Spider-Man animated series is in the early stages of production at Fox, which is completely unrelated, but I just found that cool because that series rocks.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So jumping forward, September 1st, 1994, James Cameron and Arnold began shooting True Lies. In November of 1995, Coralco Studios goes under, filing for bankruptcy with all of its assets scheduled to be put up for auction, including their rights for Rambo, Total Recall, and the Terminator franchise. I don't know who picks up the other two, but I was trying to watch the Total Recall reboot recently, and I haven't finished it.
Oh, that's not a good sign.
December 1995, James Cameron and Lightstorm Entertainment strike a first look deal with Fox Studios, which, can either of you explain what the first look deal is? For anybody that might not know.
From my understanding, a first look deal means like, hey, if you're going to write something or you want to make something, you bring it to us first. We reserve the right to like pass on it, and then you can shop it around to other studios. But if you're signing this contract, that means you bring that shit to us first so that we can jump on it if it's good.
Exactly. In the deal that they made, Fox agreed to be Lightstorm's sole financier. And in exchange, Fox gets complete ownership of the worldwide rights to Lightstorm's films.
Sorry, who does? Fox?
Fox, yes.
Okay, got it.
And it seems as if this deal was made because James Cameron was apparently not a big fan of the producer role that he'd taken on after starting up Lightstorm. And so he really just wanted to get back to making movies. June 1996, James Cameron, along with most of the Terminator 2's principal cast, reunite to make T2 3D. Listen to our episode. It's good.
It's pretty good.
And despite most of the cast openly complaining about dealing with James Cameron with his pain-in-the-ass perfectionism during the production of Terminator 2, they now seem to be enthusiastic about making a third Terminator. With Arnold even saying, quote, "The scars have healed and now they're all saying, I love to work with James Cameron."
I mean, I guess we'll find out in Terminator 2, or in our T2 episode, but like, was even Arnold complaining about James Cameron being a pain in the ass? Because I don't know that I've ever heard him complain about it specifically.
I've definitely heard Linda Hamilton complain about it.
Yeah, definitely. But that's why I'm asking about Arnold specifically.
I feel like Robert Patrick too, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, Robert Patrick doesn't seem like he wants to take anybody's shit.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm
like I said,
if it was complaining, I'm sure it was very complaining about your friend complaining.
Yeah, true.
And yeah, he made us do a lot of takes, but that's what you have to do when you make a good movie.
Yeah.
Okay. So People magazine even reported that their positive reunion during T2 3D had prompted James Cameron to begin working on a script for Terminator 3. But first, he had to finish up production on Captain Ron, Titanic. Okay, January 1997, we get our first instance of the second timeline, which I'm just going to call the Hurd timeline because it was either that or calling it the timeline for Galen Hurd. So it's going to be the Hurd timeline. Anyway, okay, January 1997, Fox Entertainment chairman Bill Mechanic begins negotiations with 3 people for Terminator 3. Fox wants Arnold Schwarzenegger to star in it, James Cameron to direct it, and then they also need to work out a deal with Galen Hurd for her 50% share of the rights.
Okay, so according to this timeline, when Coralco went under, Fox only got half of the rights.
No.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay. Well, also on top of that, that's not even like what? Wait a second, didn't Galen Hurd sell her rights to Coralco in 1989?
Well, sure, yeah, but that's why we have 2 timelines.
Yeah,
but
okay.
The second time is extra confusing for some reason.
This is what was a pain in the ass about researching this. The shorter answer is no. Like, as far as her selling the rights, no, she didn't officially sell her rights until 1998. And I'll get to the Fox thing in a second, but it seems like Mario Casar just kind of misspoke in that interview, unless he somehow really thinks that he had the rights.
Which would be great.
Exactly, which is just funny to me.
So Fox now owns like 150% of the rights to Terminator. He sold them 100%, and then Galen Hurd was like, what the fuck are you talking about? I still own half this movie.
But yeah, I think what he meant was that he paid $7 million to Hurd for her, like, to use her rights. to use the franchise name or whatever. I can't think of a smart people term for it.
So like,
because I've like tired.
So was Heard not involved at all on T2?
No, she's an executive producer on it. So they paid to use like the name, like to
okay.
to
All
use
right.
the right, to
Sure.
like to use,
Okay.
I can't think of, I know there's like a term for it.
Licensing? I don't think it's licensing though, but
is it?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Maybe it
that'd be
is.
it, right?
I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, we're too dumb for this particular part of the story.
Yes. Okay, so the funniest part though is that the LA Times article that I mentioned earlier also reported that she sold the rights in 1989, but then they also mentioned her selling them in 1998 as well. And this is in the same article, which you'd think that editor would have caught.
Yeah.
But,
They did the same amount of research as you, but less editing.
Yeah.
That's very funny.
Maybe the editor's got dyslexia.
Or the editor was just
Or he's a
working
time
with-
travel and very confused.
Or yeah, he's from both timelines. So.
Exactly.
Okay, so back to the time.
That shit that was happening to what's his face in Terminator Genesis is happening to him.
Oh, I was going to say Ashton Kutcher in Butterfly Effect.
I mean that too.
Where his head hurts.
Yeah,
He's like, he got a
his
nosebleed.
brain's melting because he can see two timelines.
Also a good movie.
I like that movie. People talk shit about it.
No?
I very
Really?
much enjoy it.
Why?
Yeah.
Oh, people hate that movie. I've never seen
Well,
it.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
It's very entertaining.
Yeah.
It's a good. Well, I mean, I'm trying to think of a bad time travel movie, but like, it's,
I'm the wrong person to ask for that,
Why? Because you just love them all.
pretty much.
It's same. So that's why I'm biased. I don't know. Now I'm curious why people don't like that movie.
Yeah, I have no idea.
And it's dark for a time travel movie too, which is good. Anyway, it's different.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the timeline. But before we move on, I wanted to mention what Chris was kind of saying, that Fox was conducting these negotiations for a Terminator movie, even though they didn't yet actually own the rights to the Terminator franchise. Yes. So
Nice.
they're conducting negotiations with those three. And I'm sure that's definitely not going to backfire on them down the road. So, okay. September 1997, two things happen. According to the same skillfully reported LA Times article that I've mentioned twice, James Cameron invited his good friends, the Coralco boys, Andy Vajna and Mario Casar, over to see an early cut of Titanic. The article states that this is when the Coralco boys learned that the rights were available and about to go up for auction. The article doesn't mention how they learned this, but you kind of have to assume that sometime that night James Cameron told them that the rights were going to become available, right? Like, how else would they unless they're like rifling through his stuff? Like, he goes to the bathroom and they run over to his desk and start just like going through everything. Like, he had to have told them. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know how else they would have learned.
Yeah, I presume.
Okay, so this leads to a second thing that happened. Second thing for September 97, Andy Vag negotiates a $7.5 million deal with the bankruptcy courts for the Terminator rights, which was not a deal to buy the rights because they wouldn't actually go for auction until the following month. But it did guarantee him the option to match any higher incoming offer. You know what I'm saying?
I guess.
First right of refusal, I believe.
Is that what it's called?
I think so, something like that.
Okay. I was going to say it much dumber. I was going to say, so basically he called dibs.
Yes,
On-
that's exactly what I have written down too.
That makes
So,
a lot more sense.
Yes,
He called dibs.
like he put a down payment on it basically.
And the court agreed to it? That seems...
Okay, so
yeah.
exactly, like, which, let's be real, like, the fact that he now had that offer matching option pretty much meant that he bought the rights.
Yeah, right?
Like, when he made that deal, unless someone was like, bajillion dollars. Like,
Yeah, something that he couldn't match.
yeah.
Right.
So apparently, this pissed off Fox Entertainment Chairman Bill Mechanic, who had just spent/wasted the last 9 months negotiating with Arnold, Cameron, and Galen Hurd for Terminator 3, which he was apparently doing to give Fox leverage with the bankruptcy courts when the rights became available. So basically, like, he was going to do it like, so I've already got everyone on board. Like, you know, like...
I guess the leverage would be, if you give me these rights, I've already got the movie basically ready to go.
Exactly.
So it will go smoothly and we'll make a lot of money. I don't really understand what the leverage is there, but all right, sure, you got it.
I don't know. I'm sure there's more to it, but yeah, like, anyway, this also reportedly pissed off James Cameron and ruined his friendship with the Coralco boys, who he felt snatched it out from under him.
Oh, so this is a Paul McCartney, Michael Jackson situation. Like, for those that don't know, like, they were doing music together and Paul McCartney's like, "Hey, governor,
There you go.
So, like, a really good thing to have is writes
Ringo
the
Starr
music.
or Paul McCartney?
They all talk like this.
Oh, okay. That's a
All of
Liverpool.
them. It's how they all talk in Liverpool. So, hey, bloke, Mike, good thing to have is writes the music. And then Michael Jackson's like, cool. He's probably did like, hee hee, or some shit. I don't know.
That's his yes? That's
Yeah.
That's every time he says yes in his songs, too.
Yeah. It's like, no. Or hee hee. So, smash cut a few years later, Apple Music or wherever owned the rights to the Beatles songs, like they went up for auction. And then Michael Jackson's like, I got a shitload of money. And he like bought them. So like he had production rights to all the Beatles music. And he only like got that idea from Paul. And, so he like, it took Paul like, I don't know, another 30 years to get the fucking publishing rights for his own music back.
Oh, he has them now?
Yeah. But not, I mean, he had him for Wings, but you know.
The show Wings with Tony Shalhoub?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, good for him. I don't remember that show too much, but it supposedly is good.
Mm-hmm. I
We remember it 30 years later, so there you go. So yeah, this kind of sounds like the same thing where fucking James Cameron's all drunk. He's like, oh, the fucking rates are going up. You know, I want to fucking get those things. And Vagina's over there like, very interesting.
I just think it's a funny idea to imagine just getting hammered while they're watching the movie.
Yeah.
And they just keep looking over him in certain parts, like when he's drawn, he's like, that was my hand. That was my hand right there.
He's like, I hate this fucking scene, and chucks his like can of beer at the TV or his theater or whatever. Like, James, kick back. Yeah. I want to get drunk with James Cameron, like sloppy drunk, and like watch one of his movies in like his home theater and just fucking see what happens. Like, shit's gonna get wild. And I'm like, dude, I fucking talk over it. Like, say all the shit you want. Like, hey, servants, keep bringing in the fucking scotch.
Like he's gonna not do it without permission.
Yeah.
Like he'd be respectfully watching the movie.
I also,
although he might, because he's like, his
movies
like reverence.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna ruin this for you.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna talk because you need to experience
and you're like,
this.
I've seen this movie 30 times, and he's like, no, shh.
It's like, dog, I've seen this movie more than you have. Like, fucking talk over it, please.
You guys are talking about some random thing while the movie's happening, and a scene comes up. He's like, "Wait, this is good."
Yeah,
he just sits there mouthing the words with the scene.
That'd be great.
I also like to think that he would he'd be a perfectionist with the drinking, to where you're not drinking right. He's like, no, that's not the way you drink a beer. Okay, so what I want you to do is, nope, you're doing it wrong again.
Nope.
Don't I just put it in my mouth and swallow? Whoa. Like, hey.
Anyway, October 6th, 1997. And by the way, these are the dates on the article, so they may be off by possibly a day. I'm really sorry about that. But it's mostly Variety articles.
Got it.
Variety reports that Fox and James Cameron have decided not to continue pursuing the rights, with Fox basically admitting that they're bowing out of the auction since James Cameron is throwing a fit and no longer wants to make T3. Although Bill Mechanic words it a little differently, saying, quote, "Right now, Jim Cameron has decided not to make this movie, and we have always said we will only make this film with Jim. It's Jim's franchise, and we would not make it without him." So I have one more quote from him, and he's still obviously a bit bitter about it, because this was in 2003, and it's the quote from LA Times with him saying, "All I knew is that Jim felt this was his creation, and why are they interfering in the process? It had been John Daly at Hemdale who made the first movie, not Mario and Andy. They did the second one. Mainly this was Cameron's work. He was the guy to do it or not to do it." End quote. But then he also said that he'd asked James Cameron if he wanted Fox to top Vagina's bid, but James Cameron, possibly standing like under a rain cloud just looming directly over his head, said, quote, that he didn't want to be in it. I'm assuming he's just like in self-pity, feeling sorry for himself right now.
He's got his arms folded and he's kicking the dirt. I don't even want to do it anymore.
Exactly. Man, no wonder he made life hell on Titanic. He's dealing with this shit. He's like, to be fair, I just lost Titanic, so if people drown, people drown. He's the one that did the LSD in the, what was it? PCP, I think, actually.
What?
For Titanic, you didn't hear about that?
No, I don't think so. What are you talking about?
Someone spiked some clam chowder that everyone was served, that the caterers were served with PCP.
With PCP?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was PCP.
What?
It was either LSD or PCP, but I'm like 99% sure it was PCP.
Those are two
I know.
PCP is
I know they're a huge difference.
That's so fucked up.
But I'm pretty sure there we go. Yes, it was PCP. Titanic PCP clam cheddar. It's like boom.
That is so fucked up.
Yeah, someone, they don't know who. Probably James Cameron. Never mind. This is
allegedly.
This is yes, allegedly. Not even allegedly. This is just me being stupid.
Yeah.
But someone spiked the clam chowder, got a bunch of the crew sick, and I think James Cameron either didn't eat it or ended up trying to throw up. But yeah, they had to shut down production, and people went to the hospital for it.
Jesus.
Probably were like, I'm fucking invincible. That's PCB, right? That's the one where you're
exactly. That's why that guy jumped off the boat and hit the propeller on the way down.
That was real.
Yeah, they were just recording and they skipped in the film.
They just took out the gun off him. It's like, fuck you. I cannot be killed.
I am unsinkable.
Anyway, okay, so so James Cameron, they pull out. According to Andrew Vajna, he called both James Cameron and Arnold Schwarzenegger that same night that he ended up securing the rights, basically, and was just shocked to find out that James Cameron was upset with him. Saying in that same LA Times article, quote, "What difference does it make to Jim who's financing the movie, a studio or us? His deal would have been the same."
He can't have been that shocked. Otherwise, he probably would have told James Cameron when he made the deal with the court.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
It wouldn't have been a surprise.
Yeah, exactly. It probably wouldn't have been surprised. So he can't have been that surprised. Anyway.
And then he's still not getting it in 2003 when he tells BBC One when they ask about Cameron's involvement in T3. He says, quote, "We have been very close friends for many years, instrumental in helping each other's success. Jim was, I think, unbeknownst to us, attempting to put Terminator together. Unbeknownst to them, though."
Okay.
So he continues by saying, but Fox, during their Titanic reign, when they weren't sure they had a big hit on their hands, were not responding to him. He then, in that same interview, he then talks about his call to James Cameron after buying the rights, saying, quote, "The first call we made was to Jim Cameron. We said, we got it. Great. The T2 team is back together again." And he got very upset because he felt we, quote, "stole his baby." Even though we're the ones that put it together last time around. So we felt that it was kind of strange, and then we went on to do it ourselves, end quote. And I might be inclined to believe him, but he also admitted in that same LA Times article that he and Mario Casar got the idea to buy the rights the night of the Titanic screening. So
yeah. What the fuck, man?
Yeah. And this is just speculation on my part, but I'd say based on James Cameron's seemingly kind of renewed interest after making T2 3D, as well as his reaction to the Koralka boys swooping in to buy the rights, I feel like when the Terminator rights were brought up, that they weren't just like passingly mentioned by James Cameron during conversation. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, T2 rights, and then they talk about something else.
Yeah, probably not.
He was probably like, he had to be at least, like, if he was actually like coming off the like high or whatever from the PCP and the T2 3D, then he was probably excited about it.
Yeah,
I'm sure he was
talking to them about how he was thinking about making it, and I don't know.
Yeah, again, speculation.
Sure.
But it also makes me curious as to how much he actually told them. Because you'd think that if he brought up the rights being available, he probably also at least would have mentioned the fact that he was in negotiations with Fox and that Fox had planned to bid on the rights for him to direct the sequel.
Yeah.
Or if he mentioned the fact that he'd supposedly begun work on a T3 script.
Yeah.
That like at that point, I think those jabronis' eyes must have been like lit up with dollar signs just thinking back on that money they made with Terminator 2. Either way,
yeah.
I feel like I'm siding with Jim Cameron on that.
Yeah, I had no idea about this. I just assumed Cameron was just done with it. Like, it's like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't know the rights. Like, I don't want to make another one. I mean, and technically, yes, but also I didn't know he was like in talks and everything and was like excited to make it, and then the rug got pulled out from under him or whatever.
Yeah. It seems like he is that way with like this franchise though. Like, because I feel like the same thing sort of happened with Dark Fate, because he said he's like, oh yeah, whatever. But then once they started doing like writing and doing production on it, he was like basically tried to take control of it.
Yeah.
From Tim Miller. I'm assuming just because it's his creation. So he's like, no, this isn't the way.
Yeah. You're playing with my toys wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, you don't see Gallagher out there fucking up Gallagher 2's like set and shit. You know, he's like, he was like just ready to let it go. And I assumed like Cameron was like Gallagher, and everybody like Andrew Vajna and the rest of them were like Gallagher 2. You know, they're just ready to take the mantle. But no, it was like Gallagher got his face burnt in a cooking thing and couldn't do the set anymore. So Gallagher 2 took it over, and he's like, this is horse shit. I can still go out there. Like, you can't, Gallagher.
Wait, what was his face burnt in?
Cooking.
Yeah, freak watermelon accident.
So a rival filled his watermelon with acid. So
oh my god!
No, he was all drunk, and he tried to like he filled up a fucking pan full of oil, and he tried to deep fry watermelon, but he forgot the first word of water, or the first part of watermelon is water, and it just like splashed water in his face, and he was like horribly disfigured. They're like, that would, you know,
that would be how you get Gallagher, right? You sabotage his watermelons.
And the Smothers Brothers, who were the owners of his set at the time, you know, it's kind of a Wayne's World situation. They were like, you can't go out there like that. Like, we have to replace you. He's like, you can't do this show without me. Yeah. Like, hey, this is our show now. We got somebody to replace you. In walks Gallagher 2, his brother, and, betrayal. So, true Hollywood fact.
Yeah.
That was his actual name, Gallagher 2. His parents were just like, Gallagher 2.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So real quick, I want to circle back for a second before we move on to Andrew Vajna's comment about Titanic. Because almost every single article I read concerning the sale of the rights mentions two things. First, the boner movie that Fox made negotiating with Arnold, Cameron, and Galen Hurd before they had the rights. The second thing, though, is the fact that Fox was extremely nervous about Titanic, which led to Fox not being as aggressive as they might have been had they not just spent $200 million on Titanic for James Cameron, which they were apparently also getting shit about in the media.
Huh.
Yeah, and apparently they can be mean-girled by the media, Fox. Like, but for instance, a Variety article from October 1997 that writes, quote, despite the worldwide popularity of the two previous Terminator films, Bill Mechanic and James Cameron are skittish to embark on another picture that would draw the level of scrutiny that Titanic has received. Cameron has always toyed with record-setting film budgets, but the intense financial risk of Titanic has created incredible pressure on Fox, which is footing the majority of the film's $180 million budget, end quote. And James Cameron actually ended up waiving his producer-director and participation fee for the movie.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm assuming that they were... like,
because they gave like so much money.
Well, I would assume that it's like they're like, well, you can't. No, he probably asked for more money. They're like, no, we've given you $150 million.
Yeah.
He's like, fine, I'll waive the fee.
As long as I get a piece of the box office.
Well, wasn't that the participation part?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know what participation means. I don't know if that's like his points or what. Yeah,
I have no idea. But now I'm curious if he did get the points off of that. Anyway, Fox was reportedly also wanting to make Terminator 3 for around the same price as Terminator 2, which had a budget of about $95 to $101 million. The only problem is that the cost of the rights would account for about $8 to $10 million, like estimated at that time for the budget.
Sure.
Which wasn't horrible, but the same cannot be said about Arnold's fee to star.
Yeah, I was about to say,
which was about $25 million at the time, or a quarter of their desired budget. Yeah. So it didn't really take much to get them to back down when, like, I'm sure James Cameron was probably on the phone with them like, oh, I don't know. Fox was like, that counts as a no, and hung up on him. Like, there's... Okay, sorry. Back to the timeline. Next day. That was all the same day. All that. October 7th, 1997. Galen Hurd attempts to block Andrew Vajna from buying the rights and even attempts to convince James, calls up James Cameron and attempts to convince him to reconsider going after them. But James Cameron, pretty much like John Locke from Lost, cannot be told what he can or cannot do. So, he didn't do it. And again, I'm curious if there was a Fox lawyer in the room with James Cameron, pretty much like on Lord of the Rings with Brad Dourif and the King's Ear, as Galen Hurd's on the phone with them on one end, you've got the Fox lawyer no, don't do it.
For those that don't know, that's Wormtongue.
Wormtongue, that's his name.
Yeah, because everybody knows who Brad Dourif is.
Yep,
obviously.
Duh.
You guys know the fucking weirdest random old white actor, guys.
It's Chucky.
What are you
it's
talking
Chucky.
about? That's the main reason why.
I literally had no idea till now.
Yeah, man, that's Chucky.
Chucky, and he's in a shitload of stuff.
Yeah,
just because I also love Chucky because he's hilarious.
But yeah, whenever we do these movies, you're like, oh, and who's the fucking guy in the villain?
Kirk Douglas.
Yeah, you guys are like, oh, Kirk Douglas. Everybody knows fucking Kirk Douglas. Or that other big buff guy who played Handsome Stranger. I don't fucking know who that guy is.
Paul Lind.
Paul Lind. I'm I don't know who Paul Lind is.
I don't even know how.
Or the captain in Red Heat. He's oh, it's this fucking guy.
Peter Boyle.
Peter Boyle.
Come on. Yeah, everybody loves Raymond.
Everybody loves Raymond.
I've never seen it. I don't love
Young Frankenstein.
Not everybody loves Raymond. All right.
No, you're wrong. Everybody loves it.
I mean, except for his family, minus his mom.
Well, again, you're wrong.
He's I don't know that. Yeah, that's mostly how I know him. And then Young Frankenstein, but
yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't use the names.
I don't know, man. Just the only dumb stuff sticks in my brain. I don't know what to tell you.
That's the same.
Ask me about politics. I know nothing.
Yep.
Oh, I mean, I can tell you fucking every Raider season or every Super Bowl winner since 1989 and who the Raiders fucking took in the first round this century every fucking year, but I don't know who Paul Lind is. So.
Plus, he's in a song, Paul Lind, Guarantee. I don't know what that song is.
What?
I don't know. Anyway.
Are you thinking of the jingle from The Simpsons?
Oh, no, that's Paul Anka.
Yeah, it's Paul Anka.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm just
got
making
Paul
stuff
Anka's
up.
Guarantee.
Okay, yeah. I know who Paul Anka is from that. A lot of it's also The Simpsons, too, because those are all some old-ass references from those writers.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I get those, and that's why I know Paul Anka, and apparently... I think in Gilmore Girls, their dog's named Paul Anka.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, I get that reference. Or any musical reference I know from
It's not
The
even
Simpsons,
I get that. It's I know that's a person.
Exactly. I don't actually get the reference. I'm just oh, that guy was on The Simpsons.
No, he's a musician.
Yeah.
He sings to...
I believe you.
Yeah. I mean, he's in the episode where Treehouse of Horror, where he sings to
He writes a jingle.
Yeah.
Do you know a song that he actually sings? Because I do not.
Yeah, but also Barry White loves sexy lady snakes, but that doesn't mean that he actually does in real life.
Sexier. He might. Okay. October 13th, 1997. Andrew Vajna for sure secures the rights for Terminator rights for $8 million. Sorry, before the bid was a floor bid or something like that, to where it's this is what it is. And then once Cameron found out about that, he threw his hissy fit. Anyway. March 1998-ish. I don't know when. It was 1998. Sorry, March-ish in 1998.
Got it.
Mario Kassar and Andy Vajna established a second production company that they can run into the ground, which they eventually named C2 Pictures. They also end up buying Galen Hurd's rights for $8 million, finally allowing Mario Kassar and Andy Vajna to take the initial steps towards producing a third Terminator film. From there, they faced a problem that could potentially end things before they even begin. Getting the Terminator himself on board, which is just a little bit of some of that sweet, sweet drama that we'll dive into in our next episode.
And that's going to do it for this episode of See You at the Party, Richter. Stay tuned for the next episode. We're going to continue our coverage of Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. What? Why are you laughing?
No, sorry. I was just going to say, we're going to start our coverage along with all the stuff that I teased that we didn't get to. Like I teased in the last episode, why Linda Hamilton. I just shorthand and everything when I'm writing. Which is
it just makes me think of ham.
Yeah. Linda Hamilton and Edward Eddie Furlong didn't return. Which now famous actor was replaced in one of the leading roles, as well as James Cameron's thoughts on the movie, which I'm sure are just super positive.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he loved it.
Yeah, exactly. He's usually a pretty positive, down to earth guy who just lets stuff roll off his,
Yeah, I'm sure he treats it like his children, and he would love them no matter what.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, an original script for Terminator 3 that we read and we'll discuss.
Yeah.
So yeah, listen to the next episode.
Yeah, and also leave us rate and review us because it helps.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah. So honestly, there's really just one thing left to say.
See you at the party, Richter!
If you enjoy our show, please consider giving us a positive review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast app of choice. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Potty Richter to make sure you never miss an episode. See You at The Potty Richter is a production of Tape Deck Media. Follow Tape Deck on Instagram at TapeDeck_media or look us up on Facebook for more hilarious podcasts.
This has been a Tape Deck Media production. Thank you for listening.